honestly did not expect Saw X to be an origin story on 2023's bingo card last year. Now, to preface, I absolutely love the Saw films overall. I think that they have really very much turned to shit as films throughout the entire franchise, but I've always appreciated and admired and respected the story within, where the writers always want to try and one-up themselves from the last one, and that's what I always appreciate about the Saw franchise. Now, bottom barrel, I'd probably say Saw 3D, the final chapter, was probably the worst one out of them all, but there were a lot of stinkers of films in this franchise, but like I said, the story is what always kept me entertained. Now, Saw X in 2023 was about Jigsaw's origins and why he decided to do all of this shit even before the very first Saw film, which the first Saw film is an excellent film. I highly recommend watching that one, especially in 4K. Now, Saw X released last year in 2023, and I thought it would just be a simple continuation. Turns out they wanted to just kind of not reboot, but just kind of go back in time to Jigsaw's origins and why he became the insane maniac that he became as Jigsaw. Now, the story is about he's diagnosed with cancer, and he reaches out and finds a doctor who is very, very experimental and wants to help and try and save him from his cancer because he has terminal cancer, and he's willing to do anything in his power to be able to just cling on to life. So he finds out after a turn of events that it was all a scam, they did it for money, and that really brings out the rage in him because not only is he suffering from a terminal illness of cancer, but he's also now suffering from being hoaxed, kind of being operated on, although he wasn't really. So this all forces his brain to just kind of blow up, and he starts kidnapping all involved and putting them in his very first Jigsaw game. Now, this film, honestly, I didn't realize that the Saw franchise could be as emotionally hefty as it could ever be, but Saw X has some very much huge emotional depth to it. Jigsaw, John Kramer himself in this film, is actually super sympathetic. Everything he went through before turning insane and psycho is actually understandable why he started doing the shit that he started to do. And of course, they do have the inevitable Saw plot twist by the end of this film, and for the most part, they do hold up strong for it being the 10th in the Saw franchise. Honestly, I really didn't expect this kind of powerhouse writing in the 10th Saw story or film, but Saw X's story and writing is phenomenal. It's nowhere near the likes of Quentin Tarantino or Christopher Nolan, but you go into a Saw film expecting torture, porn, horror, right? Well, we get that in Saw X, trust me, in spades. But there's also a huge, endearing, somber storyline that goes along with it. And honestly, I just felt for all of the people around Jigsaw, and Jigsaw especially, I felt for him in this film. It made me want to go and rewatch the Saw franchise, try to see it in a different lens view. And I did, honestly. Now, I saw this film in 4K, and it's 1.78 widescreen, I believe. Either 1.78 or 1.85. Either way, it's basically full screen on TV, and it looks phenomenal. The audio holds up very well as well. But really, all that I wanted to touch base on was the story in this film being the all-time high in Saw thus far. It even beat out the first Saw just because this had emotional depth to it. Something that was always very much lacking in the Saw franchise. I mean, they kind of got close with Saw 3. The tortured ended up being the dad of the children, the boy that died, and he gets his sick revenge, or he didn't have to. But that was really the drawing point of emotional depth in Saw until Saw X came out. And honestly, I have a newfound sense of respect for the Saw makers and writers. And I'm very much enthused for this October's new Saw installment. I really hope it delivers, because Saw X is a phenomenal film, especially in 4K. Overall for me, Saw X was a very strong 9 out of 10 in 4K. Thank you.